Now, let us see the solubility of gases in water. Some of the gases dissolve in water and some of the gases do not dissolve in water. Some of the gases are insoluble in water. The gases which are insoluble in water are nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and the gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are slightly soluble in water. Now, this property of solubility of these gases are used by the plants and animals which live in water. Like oxygen dissolved in water is used by the aquatic animals like fish and other water animals, and they use this oxygen dissolved in water and take it inside their body with the help of the respiratory organ, that is gills. So, by the help of gills they breathe in this dissolved oxygen, like this fish and water animals, and dissolved oxygen is used, but dissolved carbon dioxide is used by the aquatic plants to manufacture the food material. So, these water plants use dissolved carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to prepare the food material by the process of photosynthesis. So, this is how these dissolved gases are helpful for the plants and animals which live in water. So, on the basis of solubility of solids, liquids and gases in water, they can be classified. Another property on the basis of which materials can be classified is whether the objects will float or sink in water. Let us first of all see a very simple activity which you also can perform at home by collecting whatever objects are easily available to you. You can collect anything like wax, plastic ball, wood, leaf, ice and stone, key, coin and any screw made of any metal, and then take a little bit huge water bowl filled with water, and now put all these objects in the water and observe what happens. You will see that some of the objects go to the bottom and settle there, sink to the bottom of the bowl, and some of the objects they remain on the surface of the water, they keep floating on the surface of the water, right. So, very obvious it is, the objects which will float on the surface of water are wax, plastic ball, wood, leaf, ice, and the heavier objects like stone, key, coin, brass, screw will sink to the bottom of water. Now, you should know about what is density. Density is mass upon volume. So, if the object is heavier than water, it will sink, it will not float, and if the object is less dense than water, it will float on the surface of water. Ice is a solid form of water, it is also having less density than water, that is why it floats. So, on the basis of density, we can classify the materials into various groups, and we can find out the density in comparison only with water. Here water is only taken, whether the object is floating or sinking in water. Another property which can be used to classify the materials is transparency. For this also a very simple activity you all can perform at home. Go into your drawing room. Mostly the window panes are made of glass and transparent glass. The concept of transparent you must have heard some or the other place, right. Of course, there are some glasses through which you cannot see outside, or sometimes you can see outside and outsider cannot see inside, but later we are talking about simple glass. If you see, look through this glass window pane, you can see clearly all the things outside the drawing room. Now, it means that glass window pane is transparent. Now, what you do? Take a paper and now place it on the glass window pane and now look through it. You cannot see anything outside the drawing room through the glass window pane. So, it has made the glass window pane opaque, because you cannot see anything through it through paper. It means it is opaque. And now pour a drop of oil on the paper and spread it properly, and now place this oiled paper on the glass window pane and now look through it. You will be seeing a few things outside faintly, not very clearly but faintly outside the drawing room. So, this buttered paper, oiled paper is now translucent, through which you can see partially. So, on the basis of this transparency, we can classify the materials into groups, into 3 groups mainly. Transparent. So, transparent materials are those materials through which light can pass, through which you can see clearly. And examples are diamond, glass, gem, water, kerosene oil, this gases, sea water, and you also can make a list of those materials. Do the activity yourself, take a material, look through it and make a list of all the transparent materials around you, right. And what is transparency? Transparency is the property of the material through which you can see clearly and through which the light can pass. Second group will be opaque, as we have seen. When we placed a paper on the glass window pane, we can't see anything outside through it, we cannot see anything through it, we cannot see outside the drawing room, the things which are there. So, what is the meaning of opaque? Opaque materials are those through which light cannot pass, through which we cannot see anything. And what are the examples of the opaque materials? Metal, wood, paper, stone. Here also you can do this yourself. Look around, collect some materials, try to look through it and find out, separate the materials which are opaque. Make a list of those materials which are opaque, through which you cannot see anything. And opacity is the property of the material through which you cannot see anything, through which the light cannot pass. And the third type of materials can be translucent materials, through which the light can pass partially, through which you can see partially. So, these are translucent materials, very well you can give the example. Just now you have seen the oiled paper or butter paper, ground glass, frosted glass, tissue paper, a fog. You must have seen, must have been in the car which is driven in during the fog. You cannot see, you can see only very partly through it, mist, and if the air is having so much of dust in it, then also you cannot see clearly. So, you can see only partially, faintly. So, these are the examples of translucent materials. So, on the basis of this property, transparency, whether the light can pass through an object completely or partially, or it cannot pass at all, the materials can be classified into 3 groups: transparent, opaque and translucent. Another property on the basis of which materials can be classified is the state. And all the materials, most of the materials can be grouped into 3 classes: solid, liquid and gas. All of you know it, some are solid, some are gases, some are liquids. You can very well classify all the materials. Now, there is a basic difference between different types of materials. When you see solids, you can very well say that solids have a definite shape and they have a definite volume, and liquids have a definite volume, a fixed volume, but do not have a definite shape. The shape changes according to the container in which they are kept. Suppose you take water in a glass and now pour the water in another vessel of different shape. The water will take up the shape of the container. Now pour this water into another container of different shape, like this conical flask, and the water will change the shape. So liquids change the shape accordingly, and liquids take up the shape of the container in which they are kept. So liquids do not have a definite shape, they have a definite volume. They have a definite volume, but they do not have a definite shape. Now what about gases? Gases neither have a definite shape nor they have a definite volume. Gases can be filled in any type of container of any shape, and gases will occupy the whole space available. Whatever container they are kept, a small one, a big one, they will occupy the whole space available to the gas. Now why does this occur? This difference in solid, liquid and gases is due to the arrangement of the molecules. Molecule, as we have studied earlier, atom, molecule are the smallest particle of all types of matter, and we are using here the term molecule, though in some cases atom is the smallest particle, as we have earlier we have studied that in the case of elements atom is the smallest particle, in the case of compounds molecule is the smallest particle, which is composed of the atoms of different types, and in some elements like oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, they are exist in the molecular form, which is composed of the same type of atoms. This is just to revise what we have studied earlier. So here we are using the term molecule, so don't get confused by this term molecule. We are saying that all the matter, all the materials are made up of molecules. So let us now study about the arrangement of molecules in solids, liquids and gases. In the solids, the molecules are arranged very tightly, they are packed very tightly, very close to each other, very small spaces are there between the molecules. You can see they are very tightly packed, and the force of attraction between the molecules to the solid is very, very strong. They are attracted to each other, they are held together by very strong forces of attraction, and the molecules of the solid do not move from their place, they do not leave their place, they are having a fixed position. They can simply vibrate about their position, they do not leave their position. Now let us take the case of the liquids. In the liquids, the molecules are less tightly packed, they are not, they are little far away from each other. Molecules are little far away from each other as compared to solids, and molecules can leave their places, they can move from one place to another, and the forces of attraction between the molecules of liquid is less strong as compared to solids. So this is the arrangement of molecules in the liquids. Now let us come to the gases. In the gases, the molecules are very far away from each other, and they can easily move freely from one place to another with so much of energy, and force of attraction between the molecules is almost negligible. They can move from one place to another very freely. That is why they occupy the whole space available to them, and the spaces between the molecules is also quite much. They are very far away from each other, right. Now you must have noticed that if in one corner of the room, or if your mother or your grandmother or grandparents are praying and they burn an incense stick, that is agarbatti, you can smell it from a distance also, because the vapors move very fast and spread, because they can move, the molecules can easily move, molecules of the gas easily move very fast from one place to another because of negligible forces of attraction, because they can move freely from one place to another. So, even if you open a perfume bottle at one place, the fragrance reaches to the other place very fast. So, that is another property state on the basis of which materials can be classified into three classes: solids, liquids and gases. Now, let us discuss another property on the basis of which materials can be classified is the texture. Now, when you touch any material, you can feel it. It is different objects you touch at home, and see how different they are. Just by touching, you can find out. If you touch wood, you touch water, you touch your carpet made of coir, you touch your silk cloth, cotton cloth, chalk you touch. Now, grind it, make it into the powdered form, touch it, powdery touch. So, you feel the touch, you can differentiate between the way it feels when you touch it. So, on the basis of the texture also materials can be classified into various groups like smooth, rough, hard, soft, powdered. Now, another property on the basis of material can be classified. If you go to kitchen, suppose you see your mother cooking the food. Now, cooking pot is kept on the gas, it is hot. Can you touch it? Can your mother touch it directly? She cannot touch it, you also cannot touch it, because the hand will get burnt, because the cooking pot has become very hot, you cannot touch it. Now, why? Because the cooking pot is made up of a material which allows the heat to pass through it. It becomes very hot as soon as it is put on the gas burner, it starts becoming hot, and after some time it becomes so hot that it is not possible to touch it. If you touch it, your hand will get burnt, right. But if a cooking pot is placed on this gas and hot, it has become hot, you can touch it by using a cloth so that your hand does not get burned, or by the handle. A pressure cooker always has a handle, and some cooking pots also have a handle. By that handle you can touch, right. That handle does not allow the heat to pass through it. That handle can be made of wood or bakelite, and it does not allow the heat to pass through it. So, those substances which allow the heat to pass through it are called good conductors of heat, and all the metals like iron, copper, aluminum, silver, gold, they are good conductors of heat, they allow the heat to pass through them. All the cooking pots are made of these metals like iron, copper, aluminum, steel, which is an alloy of iron. Iron is mixed with some other metals and non-metals to make steel, stainless steel, and which is used to make the cooking utensils. And the materials which do not allow the heat to pass through them are called bad conductors of heat, that is wood, bakelite. So, this is also one of the property, thermal conduction, on the basis of which materials can be classified into two classes, good conductors of heat and bad conductors of heat. Now, let us take another property, diffusion, on the basis of which we can classify the materials. Now, as you know, solids do not diffuse much. Diffuse means spreading. If liquids you pour on a place, it will spread, it will diffuse. But gases, if you open any a balloon, if you buy from the market, suppose filled with a gas which makes it light in weight so that it flies up. Now, if you burst the balloon, what happens? The gas comes out and spreads and diffuses. If you burn an incense stick, the fumes, the vapors spread throughout the whole room. That is called diffusion, spreading of the liquids, spreading of the gases is called diffusion. Liquids diffuse very less, but gases diffuse very fast, very quickly, right. So, diffusion in the case of gases is very much, very On the basis of diffusion we can also classify solids, these liquids and gases. Another very important property on which the materials can be classified is electrical property. Now there are some substances which allow the current to pass through them. Those are called good conductors of electricity, and you can very well think of the wires, electric wires are made up of the metals, because metals are very good conductors of electricity. They allow the current to pass through them. All the metals like copper, aluminium, iron, silver, gold. So aluminium wires are generally made of aluminium or copper, because they allow the current to pass through them, and they are very good conductors of electricity, and their cost is also not much. And some substances do not allow the current to pass through them. They are called bad conductors of electricity and also called insulators. Now electric wires, therefore they are coated with the rubber, because it will not give a shock to the person handling with these electric wires. So they are coated with these insulators. So what are the various insulators? These are wood, rubber, plastic, air. Air is also a bad conductor of electricity. So on the basis of this electrical property, we can classify the materials into two groups: good conductors of electricity and bad conductors of electricity, also called insulators. Another very important property on the basis of which materials can be classified is magnetic property. Now some materials get attracted towards a magnet, like iron, cobalt, nickel, and are called magnetic substances. Now these magnetic substances can be used to make in generators and motors, right? And substances which do not get attracted towards the magnet are called non-magnetic substances. So all other metals are not attracted towards the magnet, and so they are included in non-magnetic substances. So on the basis of this magnetic property, materials can be classified into magnetic substances and non-magnetic substances.